Good morning, everyone. Sorry I'm not able to be here today, so you just get my recording. I'm going to go through the PowerPoint and we're going to watch a short video, and then I'm going to explain the assignment that you will be doing this week, as well as the assignment that you're going to be doing as soon as I get done talking. You'll be doing it during the Class Connect today. So let me get the PowerPoint pulled up. Okay, so this week we are going to talk about interviewing, your first step to getting a job. Interviewing and introduction. In this previous lesson, you learned about proper etiquette to use during an interview. In this lesson, you're going to put those skills to use. You will first look at some of the interviewing tips and examples, then participate in your own practice interview. Well, we're not going to really do that, so. Objectives. Today, you are going to learn how to identify how to complete a successful interview. And again, we're not going to practice interview. We're going to do something else in a discussion. The assignments that you will have this week, you will have a discussion with the interview questions. Again, what you will be doing immediately following this presentation. And then you're just going to have the quiz. So not a lot of assignments this week. So hopefully you have some time to catch up. Many of you still have to do those dreaded career cluster assignments. Again, they're worth a lot of points. Get them in. You really see your grades jump up. A few people got some in today or this week, and they're now getting A's. So get those in. Vocabulary. The following terms are going to be used in this lesson. Interviewee. That would be you, the person being interviewed. The interviewer is the person conducting the interview, most likely the person that's going to decide whether you get a job or not. Transcript, a written copy of an interview, which includes what interviewer and interviewing said. Essentials. We've already talked about the proper etiquette you should use during an interview. In this lesson, we're going to talk more about detail what is expected in the interview. You're going to need to do, first of all, a little research on the company before your interview starts. Again, it's just a good idea to know a little bit about something that company does, that restaurant does, that store does, that landscaping company. Again, you want to have a general idea of what they do. Again, knowing facts about the company will impress the interviewer that, one, that you took the time to do some research, and two, that you know a little bit about the company. You want to make sure you arrive a little early. One of the biggest red flags you're going to get in an interview is if you show up late. I always say what you might want to do is, if you're not sure where it is the day before the interview, go to the place, drive by it. Make sure, I know you can't drive by it, but have somebody drive you by it. So again, they can make sure that they can find the place so that you're not 10 minutes late because you got lost. You need to dress appropriately. By dressing appropriately, I mean you don't want to show up in shorts and a t-shirt. All right. If you're interviewing at a retail restaurant, something like that, you're going to want to wear a nice pair of pants, a nice pair of shoes, not tennis shoes, a nice shirt. You don't have to dress up in a suit and tie or a dress. But again, you should look nice. Again, look like you're going someplace fancier. So again, you don't want to show up in jeans and tennis shoes and a t-shirt. Again, nice pants, nice shirt, dress shoes. You want to firmly shake that interviewer's hand. Make sure that you are looking that person in the eye while you're doing it. Don't look down. Don't look to the side. Look that interviewer right in the eyes while you're shaking their hands, and give a nice hello, or glad to meet you, or or I'm been looking forward to this, something like that. But what else do you need to know about interviewing? One, be sure of yourself. You would not have been asked to this interview if the company didn't think you were qualified for the job. They've already looked at your resume. They've already looked at your job application. So they know you meet the minimum criteria. Now they just want to see, do they personally think you would fit? That's the interview. Be honest. If you don't understand something, ask the interviewer to explain. Never make anything up about yourself. That way, if the interviewer finds out you made something up, you could be fired or lose your job. It will also make it difficult to get another job. Pay attention to what the interviewer is saying. Really listen to them. Not like you do in this class connect, but really listen to them. It may be tempting to drift off if they're telling you a lot of information, but make yourself pay attention. Some of those things that this interviewer is telling you might be useful later on in that interview. So again, remember that you should be paying attention. Organize your thoughts before you answer more difficult questions. Silence for a few seconds is not a bad thing. You don't have to start talking right away. Think about what that question was. Organize in your head. Okay, what should I be saying? And then start reciting the answer. It is better to have a well thought of answer than just saying yes, no, I don't know. Okay, so again, you want to make sure you're able to communicate effectively. You might have to think of that answer before you give the answer. Ask questions. Most interviewers will ask you if you have any questions when they're finished. You should always ask questions at this point. When you did your research before the interview, you should have come across some things that might make what would be a good question to ask. Where is this company going? What type of jobs do you normally work? Things like that. Ask these questions now. However, it's never good to ask about money in a first interview. You want to avoid that question until you've been offered the job. At the end of the interview, remember to thank the interviewer, make sure the interviewer knows how to contact you, and ask how long it will take before you expect to hear from them. You can also tell them, hey, I'm really looking forward to this job. I really want this job. How long will it be before I hear from you? Or when do you expect to hire that person? Things like that. It doesn't hurt to tell the person that you want the job. Interviewing mistakes. Things that will not get you a job. Many people make the mistake of thinking that because they are qualified for a job, they don't need to worry about the interview. But in truth, your qualifications usually only count for about 10% of an interviewer's decision as to whether or not they're going to hire you. And again, as we said last week or the week before, that interviewer makes up 90% of their mind in the first couple minutes they meet you. So again, make sure that you remember that part. So what does matter? Most interviewers agree that your attitude, appearance, communication skills are what hiring decisions are based on. With that in mind, let's take a look at what often contributes to why someone does not get hired. Mistakes, many of the common mistakes that people make during an interview: poor personal appearance, poor communication skills, lack of enthusiasm, lack of confidence, being late to the interview, not asking questions, no knowledge of the job or the company, not thanking the interviewer. The best way to avoid these mistakes is by practice doing an interview right. Again, we're not going to really do that because of the online of this, but what you might want to do is practice with a parent, a guardian. Practice interviewing with them before you go into it. Common interviewing questions. Okay, now we've already talked about how crucial it is to prepare for an interview. One way to prepare is to rehearse your answers to questions that you will be asked. Again, there's no way of knowing exactly what the interview is going to ask you, but there are a lot of common questions that interviewers ask. Some of the common questions might be, tell me about yourself. Why do you want this job? Why are you the best candidate for this job? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What is more important to you, the money or the work? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you have any questions for me? All right, at this point, I'm going to show you a brief video on interviewing questions. Okay, so I'm going to show the video. Since I've never done showing a video this way, hopefully you can hear the sound. If you can't, go to the class webpage. The link for this video is there. Click on it and watch the video.
For a job. Does going to job interviews every day and hearing the promising phrase, "we'll call you soon," make you feel that you're hoping for something that will never come, and your self-esteem gets lower after each interview? That's why I decided to make this video that reveals what to do in your next job interview so you can find the job you need. How many times have you wondered, where is the fault? Why didn't they select me? Typically, there are 3 main reasons why an interview goes wrong. 1. You can't articulate yourself and communicate exactly why you're the perfect fit for the job. 2. You're unprepared, so you can't give the right answers to tough behavioral interview questions. Or 3. You're simply too nervous. You can't control your nerves and you lose control during the interview. And the worst part is, if you can't perform in your interview, you'll fail to get the job you want and truly deserve. You'll have to start over, spending weeks or months applying to more job openings. Basically, you're stuck. But don't worry. I'm going to show you a simple and effective method to answering any interview question. This method will help you land the job offer you deserve. But this presentation won't be online forever, so watch it now while it's still available. Before we begin, I recommend that you shut out all distractions. You'll get the most out of this presentation if you pay full attention to the advice I'm about to share with you. And I recommend you grab a pencil and a pad of paper to take some notes. Okay, let's get started. As I mentioned, one of the biggest challenges people face is in controlling their nerves during the interview. So here's how you can shake those nerves in just 2 minutes. According to Harvard research, this one step can decrease the stress-related hormones in your body by 25% and boost your confidence by 20%. All you do is strike a pose like a superhero. Here's how it works. Simply plant your feet shoulder-width apart, put your hands on your hips. Push out your chest and tilt your head up a bit, as though you are looking out onto the horizon. Then hold it for just 2 minutes. Take this pose a few minutes before your interview and you will walk in feeling more confident, like Superman and Wonder Woman. The second I call the Rocky Balboa. In this pose, plant your feet shoulder-width apart and extend your arms out towards the sky, tilting your head to gaze upwards. You may have seen athletes display this exact victory pose when they win a race. Even athletes who have been blind from birth will strike this pose. It's an instinctual victory pose. Practicing this pose will help you fake it until you make it. Trick your body into feeling like you are a champion. The next issue many people have is that they're unprepared and can't give the right answers to tough interview questions. No matter what kind of job you're interviewing for, there are really only 20 questions that you must be prepared to answer. And one of the toughest questions is, what's your biggest weakness? Almost everybody's heard this one, but very few know how to answer it correctly, in a way that'll make an interviewer nod with approval. I receive questions about this question almost every day, so here are some tips on how to do it right. The key is to recognize that a weakness is the downside of a given strength. You want to recognize this trait and also clearly indicate how you have taken steps to correct for it. Here's an example of an answer to this question that does just that. I am someone who keeps a busy schedule and enjoys getting a lot done, but at times it's hard for me to take a step back and get perspective. I've learned that I need to push myself to look around for more efficient solutions and to ensure that I delegate work to others to be as effective as possible. If we take a closer look, here's what this answer really says. Strength. I am someone who keeps a busy schedule and enjoys getting a lot done. Weakness. But at times it's hard for me to take a step back and get perspective. Correction. I've learned that I need to push myself to look around for more efficient solutions and to ensure that I delegate work to others to be as effective as possible. Here's another good example of the answer to the biggest weakness question. I consider myself to be someone who is creative and imaginative, and I enjoy developing new approaches to solve problems. But I've needed to recognize that a new approach may be less effective than the tried and true. I am careful not to always push for the new way and to learn how others have been successful before me. And again, here's a breakdown of why this answer works so well. Strength. I consider myself to be someone who is creative and imaginative, and I enjoy developing new approaches to solve problems. Weakness. But I've needed to recognize that a new approach may be less effective than the tried and true. Correction. I am careful not to always push for the new way and to learn how others have been successful before me. As you can see with these responses, when you've thought through key answers ahead of time, you'll be much better prepared to ace your interview. In addition, if you want to wow your interviewer and win the job offer, you have to relate your answer to your own personality, experience, and the nature of the position. If you search around the internet, you'll find lots of sites offering cookie-cutter sample answers to interview questions. A quick word of warning. Beware of using those types of canned interview responses. Why not? You don't want to sound too smooth or too slick, or sound like a robot. In order to be effective, your answers need to be personal and authentic. You need to feel comfortable saying them. But the single biggest issue is much more basic. They can't articulate why they are the perfect fit for the job. In an ideal world, people would be hired solely based on their skills and qualifications for the job. But that's not the reality. If you want to win the job, you need to persuade the job interviewer that you're the perfect candidate. So how can you persuade the interviewer that you're the best person for the job? Well, the first step is to understand that deep down that you're the perfect candidate. Once you do that, you'll have no problem persuading the interviewer too. To know what makes you the perfect match, you have to look inside yourself at your unique profile of motivations, strengths, values, and personality traits. I call this process self-assessment. Once you've finished the self-assessment process, the next step is to apply that knowledge when answering the dozens of questions you'll face in any interview. That way, instead of risking those cookie-cutter interview answers, you'll have natural answers that you're proud of. And as a result, you'll be 10 times more convincing and persuasive in your interview. There's only one problem. The process of self-assessment is very difficult to do on your own without some outside perspective. One of the main reasons people struggle to answer interview questions is because it's difficult for individuals to zoom out and get perspective on themselves. You end up like a fish trying to describe water. Since you're always surrounded by it, it becomes difficult to see and even harder to put into words. Yet this self-assessment process is critical for creating compelling, personalized interview answers. So how do you do it? How do you zoom out and get this perspective? Until recently, the best way to complete this self-assessment process was to hire a career coach. However, career coaches routinely charge $1,000, $2,000, even $5,000 or more for a series of sessions that often take weeks.
Okay, so that's all that you need to watch of the video. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go to the interview question discussion. It is also under the content under week 14. You're going to start your new thread. Then you're going to think about your first job. Most likely it's going to be in a restaurant or a retail store. I want you to think of 5 questions that interviewer might ask you. You can use a few of the questions that were listed in my PowerPoint, and I want you to think of a couple other ones that were more specific to that job. So you're going to start your thread and you're going to list those 5 questions. Then you're going to go to one of your classmates' 5 questions, and you're going to answer those 5 questions as if you were applying for that job and that interviewer had asked you for them. Now what I want you to do is I want you to choose a classmate that has had no replies and choose that one to answer the questions. So everybody's going to ask the 5 questions. Again, they need to be appropriate for the job. They need to be school appropriate. And then you're going to answer one of your classmates' 5 questions that they had put down. And you're going to answer them as if you were trying to get that job. So think about the questions, think about the answers. Again, the answers must be presented in such a way that you are actually going for that job. So again, they have to be job specific, and they have to be job appropriate. They also have to be school appropriate. So that is what you're going to do the rest of the Class Connect. It needs to be done by 1. You should have no problem doing that. Um, and if you have any questions, send me any emails. I will be out most of the rest of the day, so I probably will not be getting back to you until tomorrow. So again, have a great week, everyone. Go to the discussion and get the discussion done. Bye now.